Hello and welcome to a special online session in this year's Dubai Design Week curated talks program. My name is Razmik Bedirian, culture writer at The National. We are joined today by some of the region's leading designers as well as some international experts. This talk highlights the successful collaborations between designers who work together on core programs at Dubai Design Week. We're here to listen to their experiences and aim to understand how collaborating can facilitate further opportunities and empower businesses to reach new markets and projects that are normally out of their comfort zones. There has never been a more vital time to explore this topic. As the pandemic took hold earlier this year, many industries suffered and were forced to rethink how to adapt and continue working in this unprecedented climate. In fact, each of the designs being explored today takes into account how our everyday lives have been altered by the pandemic, both on a design level and a social one. Let me introduce the designers taking part in today's talk. First, we have Khaled Shafar, who along with Aljud Luta and Hamad Khouri worked as part of the American Hardwood Export Council AHEC's Please Sit Here initiative. The designers working with AHEC each created a bench, a sort of convertible public seating solution, which responds not just to the existing COVID restrictions, but also the post-pandemic norms. Next, we have the young designers behind the Urban Commission's winning proposal, Busta, Rujena Latik and Rima Al-Maheri. Busta was selected for its unique designs and functional aesthetics, not to mention the fact that it is to be fully manufactured in the UAE. Rima and Lujain, who are from the UAE and Saudi Arabia respectively, drew inspiration from traditional communal markets and created a modular unit that functions individually or as part of an ensemble, housing stores and workshop spaces. Last but not least, we have the Iraqi designer Hozan Zangana, who is this year's recipient of the Abwab Commission for his proposal Fata Morgana, working with Luke Disfeld of Generous Studio and Joseph Cricket of Woodcast Designs, both of whom are present with us in the talk today. Zangana created the conceptual framework for a modern day city through an open plan arrangement of seating components around the central origin point, when with pillars symbolic for each of the 7 emirates, adapting to the day's requirement for physical distancing, while offering strong research on regional contextual materials and production processes. The project addresses the ruptured social reality of our present time and aims to restore interaction between people and reactivate the connection with each other on a social level. First of all, let's talk with Fata Morgana. Can you talk to us about your project? The term, if I'm not wrong, means Mirage, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so can you talk to us about how you guys conceived the project and how the collaboration between Hozan Generous Studio and Woodcast Designs played out?
Yeah. In our case, I can say that we have benefited from our different skills and experience very much. We met about 1.5 years ago. I saw Hozan's Hunebbench in New York by accident. And then I Googled his name and I saw he's living in Amsterdam as well, just like I do. And so I texted him via Instagram for having a coffee. And yeah, from then we started talking about design and thinking about possibilities, what we can do in the future. Because at Generous, we are a digital design studio, something very different, of course, than what Hozan does. But yeah, in general, we liked each other's work and we had a good click. So first we started to try to design an expo for Milan, but due to Corona, it was cancelled, of course. And then Hozan brought in Joseph as well, and we started talking about what can we do with the 3 of us. And yeah, from then it went very quickly. Hozan came with the idea to join the Abwab, the open call for Abwab, and we sit together with the 3 of us, made a concept, and yeah, from there on we went off.
Talk to us about the concept.
Sorry?
Talk to us about the concept. If you can elaborate on it, that would be great.
Sorry, not right.
Yeah, it gets a bit tricky with streaming. Can you elaborate on the concept itself, Fata Morgana?
If we can collaborate on the concept itself.
So what part did each of you play to kind of realize?
Yeah, we were writing down the story behind the concept.
Mm-hmm.
We did some interviews with people we know who live in Dubai, for example. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we came up with the idea to do something with the disconnection in the world now due to Corona even more. But also before Corona, people are more on his own. So we wanted to create an installation where people are forced to talk to each other.
What about Hozan for you? What was that like, the collaboration?
It was for me really special to actually to do a like this project with your friends, especially the mm-hmm. people you know. And actually through this project, you really you will know each other more. Imagine if in the future more project will come, then you have different. You develop this kind of trust in each other. That I think me, Luc, and Joseph, we worked like 5 weeks. We started in the morning and we ended in the evenings.
Wow.
You create this kind of connection with each other. It becomes like a football team actually. When you have a good football team who knows each other position, then it goes easier on the field.
So concretely, how did you split? Like what? How did you divide the tasks among yourselves? What part did each of you play in the?
Yeah, I think that's from the start. From the beginning, we say to each other, everybody has to work from his field. Like Joseph is the one who has the experience with round Earth. He did some building in the US. So I like this work so much. So I hope one day that we can do a project about round Earth. Mm-hmm. And also Generous or Luc or his team, yeah, they are more able in this digital world. So from the beginning, we say to each other, everybody stays in his field, because then you get the best out of each field in the end. And that's actually what you see in the project, like making the creds, making the logos, making everything that worked very well.
Interesting. So what were some challenges that came up during this?
That was really, I think, actually the challenge to making the molds.
Yeah, making the molds and hoping that it works, because the timeline was so tight that we couldn't afford one mistake. But fortunately for us, everything worked out perfectly for us. Everything fell into place, and everyone pulled their weight. So Hozan, Luc, if I needed them to come and clean, carry, pick up stuff, as a team, we worked together, and Hozan and Luc weren't scared to get their hands dirty. So it was long days, long hours, but a lot of fun, once we finished.
Interesting. So how do you think the pandemic has changed the nature of design collaborations? Has it further stressed the importance, or?
Is it to me or to Joseph? Sorry, one more time?
Well, how has the pandemic basically changed the nature of design collaborations? Has it stressed the importance of working together on projects to kind of,
Yeah, actually before the pandemics, me and Luc and Joseph, I also worked before the pandemic with Joseph because he created one of mine. The hinderbench and one of the objects, and actually always in my process I work with craftsmen, and actually we didn't have this problem with pandemic because I have my own space, Luc has his own space, so we are able to do our thing actually, like always in pandemic, if you can say. Like you have your own space and you create these objects and pieces and collaborate with craftsmen, people who know the material. So it doesn't have this big effect on my studio, I think, if that is what you're asking.
Now, also during the process of building it, we we were for 5 weeks almost with the three of us in our own bubble. So you can say, so yeah, we haven't met a lot of other people. We didn't have time for it.
All right. Now I'd like to talk to Khalid Shafar about the Please Sit Here initiative. Khalid, can you elaborate a bit about the project?
Yep. Actually, the project was commissioned by the American Hardwood Export Council to the three of us, myself, Al-Joud Luta, and Hamad Khouri. Although the brief didn't ask us all collectively to work on one single design, so let's say the collaboration will be in its utmost format, but I would say we were kind of unified under the same brief. So we were given the same brief, and at the same time, usually the council promotes certain species from the American hardwood every year on every project that they ask us to use. So we were given special species of wood and timber to use in our project, but the brief was given to us all at the same time and at the same with the same content, asking us all to work with the same manufacturers to produce those 3 benches. So we were given the challenge of designing an outdoor bench that, taking into consideration with the current situation, the social distancing required, which is the 2 meters distance between the 2 people, and at the same time, something that could be convertible with post-pandemic, that if we can just go back to normal with no much further distancing. So how can we kind of like even make it more practical and reusable after the pandemic as well, so people come back and sit next to each other. So we are talking about each individual is either designing something as basic as long as like 3 meters length to accommodate all of this, or something in a way that's smart enough to maybe extend or expand to give that kind of distances. Again, as I said, we were given the challenge, at the same time given the same material. However, that didn't stop us from exchanging things between each other. I mean, we met a couple of times all collectively together to discuss the main points, but at the same time, even exchange ideas and suggestions to each other's on each other's design as well. I mean, we got the chance where we see each other's designs, talk about them, finding problems in each, and even try to suggest solutions. As designers, we will be more able to advise on solutions. So collectively, we didn't feel that we worked solely like on each our own, but no, we did work together, although the designs at the end of the presentation would look like each bench was designed separately and by its own designers.
Very interesting. So these group discussions, what did they look like? Did you go explore the spaces where the benches would be?
With the first meeting, mainly it was the introduction with the manufacturers, because we will actually, the sort of collaborations we had here, it wasn't between designers to designer, but as much as between designers to makers. And that was that first meeting with the manufacturers was very important, because this is the first impression we will give to each other. We know that we're going to be working with each other for the couple of months to come until design week, and this is where we wanted to set the expectation, to build an understanding between both, and to see each other's capabilities on how to move forward with the project. We know that we'll be facing different challenges, and how the manufacturers will be able to help us. So we kind of triggered that in the first meeting to understand each other's in terms of where we will help each other's and which areas we need each other's most. And at the same time, with the designs, I mean, we were not strangers to each other. Between me, Hamad, and Al-Joud, we've been working together before. We've been exchanging a lot of communication between each other. So as the creative community is rather small still, so we know each other's in terms of work and relationship. So kind of like that meeting with the manufacturer was the first, but the second one was mainly when we have discussed the final design for each designer. This is where we have revealed the design for each other, and at the same time shared the challenges we faced and the challenges we are still facing. So we were seeking advices and maybe help from our fellow designers in solving these problems with the help of the manufacturers as well. So these meetings were very key for us to put the foundation for the project, but at the same time to even keep it running in terms of solving problems and suggesting alternatives when it comes to solutions.
Interesting. So in concrete terms, what were some of the strengths that you found in these group discussions that you may have felt that you needed help with, and then you kind of saw in some of your collaborating?
You see, I think sometimes when you know your colleagues in terms of like if you've been knowing them on the field or in the industry for long enough, you might be able to expect as well what sort of design philosophy they follow, and then what is the outcome would be or would look like. And personally, for me, I think this is the collaborations, or these sort of collaborations are the areas where I maybe go beyond my typical design philosophy or threads, and I can just, it's like a playground. I can maybe design something that might not be the let's say the common things that people expect from my designs. So that was important for this project for me, because it challenged me in terms of going out of the norm. And this is where this smart approach or technology was integrated. I'm a person might not be too involved, or let's say too involved technology a lot in my designs as well, although I believe in the importance of it, but not necessarily in my own design in particular. But I think knowing my fellow designers, Al-Jud and Hamid, I would expect and again, knowing their backgrounds, like Hamid, for example, is an architect in background. So I would expect an architect's thinking or thoughts and how it will develop to a design. And this is where I thought if I didn't get that chance to maybe add value to the project by adding something new to it, at the same time add something new to my career in terms of design and creations, I would lose this opportunity. And this is where I started by designing the way I typically do, and I took the inspiration from the same sources and continue that journey. But then at a certain point, I thought like I would expect what Al-Jud will get, and then Hamid, then maybe I would come up with something a little bit not common to me, but even adding value to the project. And I've been working with AHIC before, and I have been seeing their projects in Europe and the others. So although there is a huge value or volume put on the species, the hardwood itself, and we needed to create and take into consideration that material is important to showcase, but at the same time I wanted to add value to the project in terms of like what new integration we can have into it. And this is where we designed a kind of a bench that it's a smart in a way and it's interactive in a way. It's a kind of can speak to you, you can speak to it, you can enter data and receive data out of it. It definitely follow the guidelines, and it's keep into consideration those distances and the criteria we need, but there's that added value. Benches are there to wait for someone to rest, to relax, like exchange talks with strangers or people you know. Then how would it be if you have a good plenty of time sitting there doing nothing, waiting for someone, or waiting or relaxing? Can we give you some features or some entertainment or maybe important information through the bench where you are seated? And that was the whole starting point for our design when it comes into it. So I hope that would be something new will add to the project in general, but it's something that even the audience and the organization itself would feel it's something on this pandemic and on the future, on future pandemics or issues, could be something valuable, something that add value. Because the way we look at the design, it's not only serving the purpose of the project, but then how could it serve the city of Dubai or the country of UAE or the world itself? It's something that could expand to become a commercial project where it could be used in road and transportation authorities, for example, or municipalities, where lots of messages can be delivered through that system. But at the same time, it could still fit the purpose of seating, relaxing, and some certain spaces for people to entertain.
Interesting. It sounds to me like that peer dynamic helped you, get out of your own comfort zone, and at the same time, you wanted to subvert your peers' expectations of your own work, and you wanted to impress them at the same time. So there's that dynamic.
It's definitely true. I would say that the main one was mainly to challenge myself, because I'm avoiding the integration of technology might be because I'm not too aware of all the latest, and maybe I'm not into it in particular. So it's kind of a fear that you try to prevent yourself from. But then these commissions comes and collaboration comes where it's give you a free space for you to explore. And then when you have designers and fellow designers within the same projects that maybe some of them have used those technologies before or have taken into that approach. This is where this collaboration added value. It's the exchange you do and the help you get from them or the advices, that's matter a lot in your own career, even beyond the project, like after that project as well.
Which I think is important, because we see too often designers kind of fall too comfortable within, if they see a particular style that they do, it works, they kind of tend to stick to that. And it's a real danger of kind of hindering progress and hindering,
True. I think collaboration, sometimes it's a good umbrella or a good zone to get out of your comfort zone, and that's what we are talking about in terms of like the way we create and design. It's kind of shape our own philosophy into it, but then to get out of it, sometimes collaboration could be an excuse to go out of it. If you are working with another designer, that means you both need to come on a middle ground where both philosophies can meet, and then this can go smoothly. Otherwise, I mean, you will still be that piece kind of like, or that creation will be like half designed by someone, half designed by the other designer. So it's a challenge by itself, where you can build that kind of chemistry between designers, but at the same time to build that understanding and to reach to that common ground. And I think with time, with the more collaborations you do, you start understanding how to tone down that kind of personality and go into it. And it again takes you out of your comfort zone. And this is the real challenge. You challenge yourself first before challenging how to deal with others in the project itself.
What was the relationship like also between like working with a larger commercial company? Can you elaborate a bit about that?
Yes, I mean, I've been working. I mean, I had collaboration in the past, even on the other editions of Dubai Design Week, where we work with them. I mean, there is it's a completely different approach here, because there is a DNA for this organization that kind of like you need to maintain respect. There's a certain commission where they sometimes impose on you certain details that you need to take into consideration, but at the same time, there is it depends on the organization if they give that kind of freedom for the designer to express himself or herself into the design itself. And I think I would say that the only way I found a difference, regardless of the scale of the project or the organization you are dealing with, is the I don't want to call it the professionalism, because even between us fellow designers, we keep professionalism into account in terms of taking the project forward, but there are certain formalities with organization that we follow. I mean, there is definitely there's more paperwork to review, and there's those kind of I would say documents that designers don't like to read a lot, like those legal documents of 20 pages, 30 pages you have to go through. There's a lot of standardization though, because these organizations as well work with different designers and of different caliber. So I'm sure they have different formats of these kind of contracts or documents where designers with a larger experience and maybe a longer career journey will be treated or maybe talked to differently with others. But there's a lot of standardization that common to this company, but not common to us as individuals. With the time that if you get to work with a couple of those companies, I think you get used to it. For me, I think I had been, I might be more tend to like working with organization because of the organization of this relationship. Everything is organized in a way when things are set on a place, it makes it easier for us to move directly to our design, our own zone of designing and starting the process. But when it comes to individuals, or let's say group designers together, as I just mentioned before, you are starting by building a chemistry, and this could work or maybe it doesn't work or it might not work. And that's where it starts to create a kind of like frustration and pressure in the beginning until you reach to that ground. So you are putting a lot of effort in the beginning on just building a real relationship, especially if you are even put together into the project without you selecting each other. Sometimes you do select based on something you know in common, but sometimes you will be working with these designers and you guys will create that thing. And this is where you feel like, okay, that's a challenge. The individual is the challenge first, then comes the project itself. So I think that's the difference I found between one side or the other side itself.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'd like to talk to you, Rima, about your project. And then I see Lujane has joined us as well. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Yeah.
So with Busta, you kind of drew inspiration from the traditional communal markets, right? Can you talk to us a bit about that, the process of putting that into a more modular design?
Okay. So basically with urban commissions this year, the brief actually was very interesting because it was calling for a multifunctional boutique unit. So something that is pretty much like a kiosk, but it does a little bit more than that. And I think when Lujain and I saw the brief, we thought it was very interesting because we always had an interest for the topic of modular design. It's something that we've always sort of explored even before urban commissions came in the picture. And I think with Busta, what we were trying to propose was the idea of rather than a unit that works in different ways, it was sort of to bring back the communal markets of, how traditional markets used to be in the region. And I think that was the beauty of it, because that was where people met, that's where people had conversations. So Busta is actually derived from the Arabic word bisat. We usually say, he has his Busta and he's there selling his products. So, and it's very simple. It's just the idea of, being there, showing up, sort of like being part of the community. So we took that in consideration and we started to play around with, how it will look aesthetically, but at the same time, how it functions and how modular it could be. And maybe Lujain would like to add a little bit more on the concept, if you'd like.
So yeah, also the brief asked for a kiosk that would pop up. So something that would be collapsible, you could store it anywhere, and you can technically open it and close it anytime and anywhere. So Busta also from the traditional market is that they literally just open their sack and eat. Bustun is what we use, the term. So basically they just station themselves anywhere, and it's really how the concept and the whole structure came together with the concept. So what was really interesting is that we wanted to create a space also, like Karima said, that does not work as a singular unit, rather when put together can create a different creative space.
No, so it seems like you guys went into this project knowing it's going to be, you're going to be working together. So was there like a clear division of tasks that came about, or was it more organic as the project and the idea, developed?
So first of all, working with Lujain, so Lujain's not a stranger. We've been working together. We've met actually at university, and throughout the years, we just kind of like knew, like, Lujain and I were always going to be partners. Now the challenge actually was that this was the first time that we were not together, because she was in Saudi, she's based in Saudi, and I'm based in the UAE. And we're normally used to be sitting together, with the papers, sketching, kind of like talking, discussing, and just kind of like, thinking of it like in the actual being together in the same space. And given how COVID came in and sort of like changed that, actually introduced us to a different way of working. So we had to kind of like figure out a different system. And the thing is, between us working collaboratively together, I feel like I would be the kind of person who would try to simplify it and where maybe think of it more aesthetically. Lujain, because it was modular, Lujain was like, what if it could do just that one more thing? Like, it was always like, okay, so like the shelves open up and then we can collapse it and then we can carry it, and then Lujain would come and I'd be like, that's it, that's enough for a modular unit. And then Lujain would, but maybe if we can just like do that one more thing. So I feel like it was that challenge. So she was like pushing me and I was like sort of pushing her in terms of like different topics when it came to the aesthetics or the materials that we're using. So yeah, I think it was really quite interesting how the environment that we were put in changed the way we were working. And so yeah, it was interesting.
Jane, what about for you? What was it like to suddenly work in this remote situation, and when you were used to being in the same room and working with sketching at the same time and kind of paddleballing ideas back and forth, and then suddenly there's this distance and you have to do it in a virtual setting?
Well, it's a challenge. I mean, you can't do much through virtual Zoom meetings, but it's really like, you should see our WhatsApp messages. It's all like sketches. I sketch something here, and then she takes it and she draws something on top. So it's a different experience, but it truly shows that it really works. And technology, thank God for technology. Otherwise, we wouldn't have made this possible. Yeah.
So you guys were up against some, what, 60 applications for the urban commissions, and including some big established companies. So what was it like to kind of get that commission? What did that feel like?
I think, so it actually took us a while to kind of like come around the news when we first heard. Of course, we were extremely happy, but you know, Jane and I, we just graduated. So in terms of like the experiences that we were trying to tackle, I think urban commissions came at a surprise, but it was honestly something that we're very pleased to have had the opportunity, because what urban commissions did is that it's given us a platform as emerging designers. So usually the challenge with designers is that you really have to prove yourselves when it comes to like the proposals that you are putting out there. And you know, we're a growing community. We're in a region where design is actually shaping up a little differently now. And I think, you know, hearing about urban commissions, it was definitely something that we were extremely excited to be part of. And not only just being part of or receiving the commission, but it was also working with the team later on to sort of develop and keep, you know, sort of solidifying the prototype and so on. So I think, yeah, it was extremely exciting to know that we were shortlisted and picked. And, you know, Jane, I don't know if she...
No, it's truly exciting. I mean, like Rima said, we did not expect it as much, but it's really nice to work with a bunch of creative team and experts to help us refine the design and whatnot. Yeah.
So talk to us about why it's important to have like young aspiring designers be given opportunities like this. What kind of doors it can open, what kind of new designs it can bring to the table, new ideas. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
So like I was saying, usually with designers, you're gonna have to work a lot. There's gonna be always a lot of experience that you're gonna have to get before you actually are putting out proposals that are very solidified and things that actually are good designs. And I think with the Urban Commission's opportunity that we got, and just, you know, us being given this opportunity, is that we ended up working up with a team of expertise who helped us sort of build that, because we came forward with an idea that they believed in and thought, okay, this was a really good idea, and you guys have a different narrative that you're trying to tell. And at the same time, we still were backed by and supported by a team that, you know, helped us sort of understand different aspects of how this could actually work in the market, or how this unit could actually be something that people would want to use, and so on. So yeah, I think it was the Urban Commission's opportunity itself that was unique, because of how the brief was there and how the process was after selecting the winner. So yeah, definitely that is what I think.
Jane, do you have anything to add?
I know, really, us as young designers, when we graduate, I think everyone knows this whole thing about not being given an opportunity to take part of the market or showcase what you got to the real world. So as Dubai Design Week has given us the opportunity to showcase what we can achieve, and yes, we may come up with crazy concepts as young designers, young architects with all this imagination. It's really important to also have the more experienced people to like have this middle ground, or keep us on earth, and like find this solution to showcase the talent of the youngsters, yet take on the experts' ways of manufacturing and prototyping and making it a whole reality. That's nice.
Hozan.
Yes.
So what do you think were some of the lessons learned from your collaboration with Leonard Studio and Woodcast?
Yeah, I think what I also want to mention is like not every collaboration will be also a good, because there are some qualities that you need when you collaborate. with other people. And you have to be open, you have to listen, because sometimes you can be on the way. So you have also like, you need the character to collaborate really. It's not like when you collaborate, it's a guarantee that you succeed. So it's always finding the right people that you feel, or you know, or you feel this click that can, give a new path to discover new things. And I think with this project, we actually just jumped in, especially for me. I never work with this hard material, like making this specific molds for that, and how do you get it out? Like all the small questions. And yeah, you will see it. Sorry, back to your question again.
No, I'm just wondering what kind of lessons. I mean, you did bring up something important, and to not sometimes some collaborations can be trickier than others, right? Like sometimes some design approaches and concepts don't work together cohesively. And so there's always that kind of risks that a good collaboration tends to want to overcome, right? So I think describe it much like a football team, and which being aware of everybody's like position to working in a uniform.
I think what really helped us, like, so you need somebody who can do the hard work, but you also need somebody who has the helicopter view to see what's happening and when has things to be finished. And I think Luc helped us a lot with that, like has the overview, and like simply doing the email. It is like a bridge or a mountain of emails we had from the organization of Dubai Design Week. So all the small things together is actually one big. It sometimes feels like you have to move the mountains.
Yes, especially in the 5-week period, we had to be super efficient in sharing the pieces of the project, who is doing what. Therefore it helps super good. All the experience that Joseph had, that Hozan had, that we have had, makes the whole process quite efficient.
I think efficiency is actually a good point. It could be sometimes difficult to ensure, like, because sometimes, you know, with more, I think there was that fable of a person wanting to go fight a hydra with many heads versus one with many legs, and then picking the one with many legs was actually defeated. But if he had gone and fought the one with many heads, then he would have likely prevailed, because so many heads were thinking and in like contrast with each other. And so that hydra was not working or was not operating smoothly. What about Khalid? Do you think there were any lessons learned from your collaboration?
I'm sure like every collaboration has its own unique kind of opportunities, threats or lessons that gives you. I think what I found with this particular one, I mean, the relationship with the manufacturer is something we really look forward to, because they open up like a new techniques or new ways of production and materials and things that you deal with. But I think that was for us, knowing that it's one single manufacturer that's creating all of them, that was an interesting, because every time we go and for prototyping or like to sort a problem or to check on production, we will be even checking our fellow designers' pieces at the same time. It's like they are all produced at the same. It's like one kitchen cooking several meals at the same time. But with designers, I think it's how we all grow in the industry together, and then how things might change with time, or it remains as solid as, because as I said, we with Al-Joud and Hamid, we've been working together, and we've been meeting in several occasions, either here or in the Gulf or in other countries, like even in Europe when we travel and exhibit. So kind of like it's nice to look at our career journeys collectively and how we grew. We kind of like even came up, or we entered the market or the industry at the same time. So it's good to see how we grew, and how our designs matured with us as well. So that was something I really enjoy. And at the same time is how this maturity create that kind of understanding. It's not anymore about competition and like who's gonna have the best design and stuff. Certain commissions or collaborations like this, it's not based on winning kind of. I mean, I can understand how Rima and Lujain felt because it was among all of these numbers of applications comes into it. The feeling is different here. But when you come to know that you are working on certain designs, you will not say like, oh, I want my design to be the nicest one or the most. You, as much as you follow those guidelines and you have the brief clearly tackled and you kept your, or you maintained your DNA or your signature in terms of design, and you put your philosophy on place, I think that's exactly what you need to focus on. It's this work at the end will represent you, and I think I found that among the three of us on the project, because we all have kind of like we matured in our work where we reached to that level that it's not anymore this competitiveness, which I don't. I mean, I tend not to like that kind of environment. If it is the competition to just get that position into it, it's totally different. So I think maturity was playing a clear role here, and at the same time, seeing this exchange of advices and consultation, just lovely to see how the industry or how the community of creatives comes together and work, especially is when we have something like the pandemics going on to, it makes us even, due to the lack of physical connection, it makes us connect even more, because sometimes as the ladies were mentioning, they used to meet together and do things together, and this is what we used to do as well with the other designers. But then with this, we have to explain our ideas in a different way, or we show them a different style. Materials is very hard to examine on specs here if we will keep that version. So we really need to go and look at things, and we have to. I mean, regardless of what, we will take all the precautions, but we really we're looking for that factory visit. We want to see the species. We want to touch the materials and see it. So regardless how what sort of pandemic, or let's say what sort of issues we are facing, I think we all believe that physical interaction still will take place always, especially in our industry, where we need to touch materials, see things, inspect things closely, test things as well, prototyping on a large scale, a smaller scale, on a one-to-one scale. So there's a lot of this kind of physical interaction we are missing. I think we value those physical interaction more because of the pandemic. So that was a lesson was harshly learned, I have to say, due to it. But I think it's created as well different way. It taught us different way, and this is something we should take further even for the future. God forbid us, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but if we face something like this, I think we'll be more ready from a design perspective, from a design industry, how we can deal with something like this and how we can come even closer. This is a great example of what we are doing now, that we are sharing all our challenging and how we faced it. And we are all reaching to one point, which is almost in 10 days from now, that all our creation during this period will be revealed, and we'll see how we managed to reach to that stage of professionalism. So I think definitely there is learned within the project, but even beyond that, we all learned here.
Yeah. I really agree with Khaled. Like the point, like it is not anymore the time like a designer is the one who has to be on the picture and the rest in the backside. That is why we started like what is a collaboration. So it started also with a portrait. So not only the portrait of a designer or a famous artist, but you have actually to put the group in it. Like so that is really important. Like that you think because without Joseph, you can have beautiful concepts or designs, but if you don't know people and share your knowledge together, you are not able to translate it to physical objects. I think that is a really important point for keep in mind. So we are really happy we know Joseph. Yeah.
I think this is a good segue to actually opening up this virtual floor. If any of you guys have questions for each other.
Oh, that's nice, man.
I don't want to just be hammering you guys with questions. So I mean,
I'm really happy, like the Emirat, like doing this, creating this design field, and investing a lot of time and energy to create this field, because we know through design, especially also art, architecture, you can create new environment, you can create new ways of thinking, you can create new collaboration. So I'm so happy that they took the leader in Middle East to create that position for himself. It's actually fantastic. Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for each other? Rima, Lujain? Do you guys have, I mean, we were just talking about how it was interesting to see, like in a collaborative process, to notice the evolution of our peers and to kind of, so with you guys having been working together for such a long time, I imagine you must be very well acquainted with each other's design approaches and philosophies.
Yeah, I guess actually one of the things that I thought was interesting when I was listening to everyone else bring up how they collaborated with other designers is that one of the things that Jane and I, you know, sort of, we were very familiar with each other. So we knew exactly kind of like how to, not necessarily thinking wise, but it was sort of like we expected where we were going with the project. And I think for us, it was after we have proposed it and we were now meeting up with everyone else, is that when we realized that there was actually more conversation to have with other people who came with different perspectives and views on, you know, how this design could work better and so on. So I think that was actually quite interesting. And actually, I do have a question. So one of the topics that was extremely, it was very highlighted to most of the briefs that were brought out in Dubai Design Week, which was the idea of the social distancing. So the 2 meters, okay, as everyone is saying, the 2 meters. So I just wanted to kind of like talk about how you guys, you know, like how did you guys tackle that as an issue? Because it was something that Jane and I had a conversation about, and we talked about different ways of doing it. But I would actually love to hear how you guys, you know, like, how did you guys, what did you think about, you know, that kind of thing? Like, what did you guys do in that case? And the question is to both Khalid, Shafar, and Hozan, and Luke, and everyone.
I think from our perspective, and I think this is how the brief was put from the council. The team based in Dubai here, when they first talked to us about it, they say they have noticed, especially with the social distancing, what I mean, how organization react here and how the government put the rules, let's say, for operating kind of like businesses, that they have to show clearly that guests or let's say customers need to maintain that distance, and that was shown in different way, either by having those guidelines somewhere written and then it's in the communication media, but then at the same time it's physically put there as stickers on certain. So if there is certain seating that was already there since a long time, then they start either closing these seats by putting stickers saying don't sit here, or please this is vacant, or you can't stay here or sit here. And this is where the whole idea of this, actually our project came to life, because on the public beaches here we can see a lot of these benches as well, and there's a lot of these stickers going into them. And the idea was how can we come up with a smart, elegant design that would without having those kind of stickers or those kind of clear signs saying don't sit here and keep 2 meters, automatically or logically the customer or the visitor or whoever will use this piece of design will understand that this is the place where he or she cannot sit, and this is where they sit. And that's I think this is exactly how the designers need to read the brief carefully, because as I'm just saying that in our bench you could flip directly on the designer kind of brain, thinking that, oh, everyone will think the same way and logically they will not sit here, they will sit here, because you put a kind of a form that looks like a seat here, but then you keep that a flat area without it. But as a normal human being, as a mass, as a public, any place within a certain proper height, within a flat surface, can be a place where people can sit on. And then you need to make it in a smart way You needed to communicate that message in a smart way without having any sign or any words on it. And that was our challenge, is like how to keep those distance, those 2 meters space, uncomfortable, or let's say unwelcoming people to sit on them without having any kind of messaging or any kind of texting into it. I mean, on our design, although there is this messages, but the way we use it is having those kind of like digital screens that comes up, and they are the one that communicate those messages. But those screens, you will not be expecting a normal person will come and sit over a screen. So the screen is like, it's there. So, but the screen can even go in and hide and create that surface where people then after the pandemic sit on them. So I think this is how we are tackling how we from our perspective took that brief and into consideration. But then we could either fall into the trap where we might be designing something based thinking that the same way we think or the same way we view things, that people will automatically, logically, they will have to know that they can sit here. But that's not necessarily the way public will react. And this is where I think we need to be we need to really get into the psychology of different types of demography around us to understand how people react. Creating a door with no handles at all and there is no way of doing it doesn't mean, oh, people, because it's, if you will use it in a public space, you need to consider safety. You need to consider someone, does that door move from both sides? So if someone behind it and you just pushed it, and then would you hurt someone behind? So sometimes we designers, architects and others fall into this by maintaining this sleekness and minimalism and stuff. We forgot the user or the user experience into it. And that's the most important. And for our brief was, the user experience was given the priority. We need it without being there, without giving instructions for people. The normal person who's going to use our benches will get it automatically, clearly, that he cannot sit here or she cannot sit here, but they have to sit only here and there. And there's that 2 meters minimum distance between both of them.
And in our concept, we also thought it was important that although you have to keep the distance, it's also important that people can still connect with each other. So that's why we put everything in a circle so that people are facing each other and not losing the connection to other people or to strangers. We thought it's still important that people can still connect to other people.
Especially now when the social fabric has kind of ruptured with all these necessary measures to thwart and contain COVID. So that's what I like about all of your designs, is that they kind of take into consideration how we can keep people safe, but at the same time bring people together again and kind of facilitate social interactions.
Yeah, I think
actually I was having this kind of wondering about you guys working on a web and like being not necessarily from the UAE or let's say from the culture here. Did you find it, I mean, this could be applied here or any project that you worked in different countries than where you're based. Did you find it important that you get to know the local kind of like attributes, culture, more, and what source of information you tend to find or to get this kind of understanding before starting the design, the whole design process? Or is it because of we are mainly so much into the pandemic and how it is going and how it's affecting us, that was maybe easier this time that we focus on how to maintain those more or less generic guideline across the world, rather than focusing on how people here in this part of the world and this culture interact and how they perceive things and perceive certain shapes and colors and stuff. Did you get into this cultural understanding before starting it, or did you focus just on the pandemic and because it's kind of universal, you thought it should apply to your design will apply to anyone regardless of the cultural backgrounds here?
No, I don't think so. I think where especially when I started thinking about this project, I immediately had this thought of majlis, and when you're like a sheikh, the leader of a qabila or something, that you have always this place you sit together and you make these big decisions. So that is on one side, and the other side was especially for me when you like the Mirage, like the Fata Morgana, especially my experience because I grew up in Iraq and I traveled a lot between Erbil and Baghdad in the 19s. So you are not allowed to travel by car. So we had to travel by trucks. So on my way, for example, if it is really hot, like in Iraq, then become like 60, 65 sometimes degrees, then you see far away this effect, this imagination that is not there. So because of this experience, as a child, you feel like you create your own movie in your head or your experience, and then you forget the situation, for example. So this is also what we want to achieve. Like when you see it from far with the colors, with the thing that you think, oh, okay, what is it actually? And that is also why the table is copper. So we hope, because it will be nice weather, we hope, when the sun is shining and it's touched the table, then you get this reflection in your eye. You become like a blind for a few seconds. And so I think we looked at it in different ways. But also, it's like this is why we made like 7 pillars that suggest the seven Emirates to put this together in a round table. I think in the end, that's actually like the power of Emirat that's putting this power together. Because a circle is only strong when you put all these pieces together. So I hope I'm answering your questions.
No, you did. You did actually. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we also did some interviews with people we know who live in Dubai, for example. Also Dutch people, and they told us also that we are more talking with only the Dutch people here living in Dubai, and they said people from another country they are more with their own. So that was also an inspiration for us to create something where people can talk to everybody and not only in their own group.
Interesting.
Looking forward for this.
We're running out of time. As much as I'd love to continue this conversation, it seems like we just got into the meat of things. It was a pleasure talking to you all. It was an extremely insightful conversation, and I can't wait to see the designs in person. I'm looking forward to it. So, does anybody have any concluding comments?
Yeah, I want to add a slogan from a really famous Dutch artist. And it goes like, if you don't know what to do, you have just to start.
True. Starting is only half of the work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you all. As I said,
so
it
much.
was a
Thank you.
pleasure.